Sami Zayn is once again the United States champion, and we will be previewing NXT Stand and Deliver, the what is kind of meant to be the WrestleMania equivalent of an NXT premium live event to the main roster, of course. Not too much to talk about this week. Welcome to the Wrestling is Bullshit podcast. We had a bit of a chill week. We had the big title change with Sami Zayn on SmackDown, but ultimately, there's not too much else to talk about. We have things to talk about, but not too much. So hopefully, we can have a fun episode here and keep you engaged in the world of professional wrestling as we enter April of 2026, the month that will see this year's WrestleMania go down. Every year's WrestleMania go down for the most part. It's almost always in April. Going to be a good time here. Kind of interesting what they did with NXT Stand and Deliver. But before we get to talking about that, I do want to, of course, go over the fact that yes, Sami Zayn has in fact won the United States Championship on SmackDown this past week. Kind of a fun thing they have going with the US title over at SmackDown, and it really started when Sami Zayn defeated Solo Sikoa for it just a few months ago. We began to do the United States Open Challenge on every episode of SmackDown, almost every episode of SmackDown, at least with Sami Zayn when he initially won it late last year. And then it went over to Ilya Dragunov, who carried on the tradition. And then Carmelo Hayes, coming into 2026, has held the United States Championship for a couple months now. And he had a fantastic run. That run has come short as Sami Zayn is now the United States Champion by defeating Carmelo Hayes, of course. And you Carmelo Hayes fans are going to be pissed off about this one. I'm not too pissed off about it just because I love Sami Zayn and I love Trick Williams. Sami Zayn versus Trick Williams has been announced for WrestleMania this year for the United States Championship. Kind of a tough break for Carmelo Hayes, but I think Carmelo Hayes showed the main roster creative that he can do what he did in NXT on the main roster, right? He was fantastic in NXT, super over. He kind of has a lackluster beginning to his main roster run until he wins the United States Championship and really kicks it up a gear or two, defending that title on SmackDown, being the star that we know that he can be. Okay, it's tough to see him lose the WrestleMania spot along with the United States Championship, formally, as now Sami will be taking on Trick Willie, two guys who deserve to have a one-on-one singles match that's been built up to for the past couple of months. I'm not mad at that at all. And honestly, I encourage people that are, upset about Carmelo Hayes not being involved in the United States title picture going into WrestleMania, even though he was the champion for months. I would say to those people, we have seen WWE, the main roster creative, put Carmelo Hayes on the shelf and then pick him back up and start using him the way we know that they can use him, right? So what's to say they don't do it again? They don't have Carmelo Hayes in the plan for the mid-card title match at WrestleMania, being the United States Championship match at WrestleMania. That's okay. They're going to have something for him in the future. He's just getting started, Trick Williams has earned this big match against Sami Zayn, and it makes sense with the story that they've been telling with those two guys, and now has the United States Championship on it, and it's a good time, right? So, yeah, it's a little frustrating, and I can see why for a lot of Carmelo Hayes fans out there. But at the end of the day, we have seen the WWE knows what to do with Carmelo Hayes in his recent United States Championship run. I'm sure he will have a big presence on the SummerSlam card later this year, revolving around the United States Championship. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. And it's okay that they're not giving him the big WrestleMania moment just yet. Okay, it's okay. Maybe they have something else in store for him. Maybe he does something on SmackDown, on the SmackDown before WrestleMania. He's young enough to where it's okay. Okay, they have had Trick Williams cooking on the slow burner, and now they're going to feature him in this WrestleMania US title match. And that's fine. Okay, you can't have Not everyone gets to have the big spot at WrestleMania, and I'm completely fine with them choosing Trick Williams over Carmelo Hayes, and Sami Zayn is fantastic as always. I'm interested to see when Sami Zayn ends up winning one of the big ones, whether it's the World Heavyweight Championship or the undisputed WWE Championship. It's one of those things where it's not a matter of if, but it's a matter of when Sami Zayn wins one of those titles. And it'll be interesting to see how they do it and when they choose to do it, right? They're going to do it. They're just taking their time. It's one of those things. It's one of those. Sami Zayn is one of those guys that WWE is going to tell a fantastic story with in terms of them winning their first big world title. The AEW counterpart to that is Darby Allin, right? It's not a matter of if Darby Allin is going to win the AEW World Championship. It's a matter of when. And when they do it, we can expect one of the best stories that AEW's ever told, right? Similar to what they've done with Hangman, similar to what they've done with Kenny Omega in a much different way. And ultimately, that is the other result here is Darby Allin defeated Roosh in a no countout match on Dynamite. They're just using Darby Allin. They're just letting him go on weekly TV. They would save his big matches for the pay-per-view in the later half of 2025 with Darby Allin. And now they're just letting him main event AEW Dynamites with some crazy-ass matches. We saw one against Gabe Kidd, the coffin match the week before. Now we see Roosh in a no countout match. Sami Zayn and Darby Allin are two guys that are going to tell quite a story when it's their turn. When it's their turn to be the quarterback of the company, they're going to make quite the big impact, I do believe, personally. Darby Allin on AEW side, when he wins the AEW world title, that's going to be humongous. And then Sami Zayn when he wins the big one over there in WWE. Those are two big stories that I cannot wait to cover and cannot wait to see happen. But, we got to be patient, all in due time. All in due time. Kind of a chill week. This is all I got for you in terms of results. These are two guys that are going to make an impact, and like I said, and now I'm using a silly ass segue using the word impact as we talk about TNA, not TNA Impact, but TNA Sacrifice, a premium live event that took place this past week on Friday night. The main event of TNA Sacrifice, this premium live event, was Mike Santana defending the TNA World Title against Steve Maclin. And you guys know how I felt about TNA, okay? There's been some wins, but a lot of losses for TNA. And unfortunately, in my mind, this is another huge loss because I was very excited to see Steve Maclin versus Mike Santana. In my mind, that could be the most interesting main event that TNA has in the year 2026. And I really hope they give it another run, whether it's on the next pay-per-view or the next premium live event. Okay, if you don't know what the difference is with those, if you haven't been watching much TNA, I'm going to say it right now. TNA Plus has monthly premium live events, and if they're not doing a premium live event on a specific month, they actually do a pay-per-view. So they do about 4 pay-per-views a year and anywhere between 6 to 8 premium live events that you can watch as long as you pay $10 a month for TNA Plus. Okay? Ultimately, though, what I was trying to get at here is in the main event, Mike Santana versus Steve Maclin for the TNA World Championship, TNA Sacrifice Premium Live event here. We saw Mike Santana hit Steve Maclin with a pretty rough super kick, and Steve Maclin just got completely battered over the head with this super kick. I mean, he ends up going to the ground. The referee throws up the X, and they call off the match. Very tough ending to TNA Sacrifice. This was definitely the big match that people were waiting for those that watched it. And to see it go down, abruptly ending, and ultimately a no contest, your main event, you're struggling as a promotion. You may be partners with WWE, but WWE doesn't care about you. Hopefully the things I'm saying aren't too crazy at this point. Hopefully the people who listen to me remember the evidence that I've given over the past several months in terms of these statements, hopefully sounding realistic. Anywho, just a tough loss for TNA. You need a good main event here in 2026. You have the opportunity for several. You can do a lot with Mike Santana. You can do a lot with Nick Nemeth. Steve Maclin is sticking around. You got the Hardys. There's Leon Slater. There's a lot going on, and you may not feel the way I do about TNA. You may be fine. You may be happy with the product that they've put forward. But honestly, this is there needs to be so much more. Okay, I expect more from TNA. And I'm not really saying that the freak accident between Steve Macklin and Mike Santana in the main event of Sacrifice is their fault. I'm just saying I pray for the well-being of TNA in 2026 and that the quality and reputation that TNA has slowly built up for years doesn't wither away the way I already see it happening, unfortunately. Like I said, if you enjoy TNA and you're happy with it, you disagree with me, that's fine. But I got to call a spade and say TNA is in trouble. And this main event, the Sacrifice Premium Live event on Friday night, did not help at all. Very unfortunate to see. So that's a bit of a bummer, right? Everything going on with TNA and just more bad news to announce here, unfortunately, on this episode of the Wrestling is Bullshit podcast. But let's go ahead and before we get into the watch list and the top 20 champions of wrestling, cover our last bit of news here. And this is a feel-good story that we can end on before we get into the nitty-gritty of the end of this episode. So Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is a Canadian pro wrestling promotion made by Canadians for Canadians and ultimately has put together a couple of pay-per-view cards in 2025. And now are kicking off 2026 by announcing a Canadian TV deal. So if you are a citizen of the Great White North, Canada, then you will now have access to Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling's weekly television series that will be coming soon. Very exciting to see this. This announcement comes to us during a collaborative show between Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, MLP for short, and MLP and Ring of Honor, right? Having a collaborative show. And then on this collaborative show, we hear that MLP has announced and secured a Canadian TV deal, which is fantastic. Very good for MLP. MLP is a promotion that deserves all the success and deserves to be in the forefront of professional wrestling. There with AEW, there with New Japan, there with CMLL. I think Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling is kind of that fourth gem that can absolutely create the Mount Rushmore of essentially non-WWE wrestling. So this is very good news. This is very exciting. We actually got to see the Good Brothers, Doc Gallows and Carl Anderson, win those tag team titles over there at MLP, which is a good present. You know, I miss the Good Brothers. That gives me a reason to watch some MLP, to be honest with you. Is it a worldwide product yet? No, but it doesn't need to be. It is a high-scale Canadian pro wrestling show. It's had a couple of pay-per-views in 2025, and now it's hitting a weekly show by Canadians for Canadians, ready to kick some ass in 2026. I think MLP has a bright future. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait to cover more of it as it expands accordingly. Let's get into the watch list now, fellas, and then the top 20 champions of wrestling, and then I'll let you go. Shorter episode today, not too crazy of a week that has passed, and not too crazy of a week that is to come in the world of professional wrestling. I only have 2 shows to highlight on today's watch list. So let's go over them. Both WWE products, one main roster, one being an NXT premium live event, of course. And let's start with Monday Night Raw. There will be 2 matches of significance on Monday Night Raw. The first one will be the Irresistible Forces defending the Women's Tag Team Championship of WWE against Bayley and Lyra Valkyria. Fun match that's been built to there. This next match has also been built to for the past few weeks, this next tag team match here, as we have the Usos defending the World Tag Team Championship in a street fight against The Vision, Logan Paul and Austin Theory taking on Jimmy and Jey Uso in a street fight. Winner's going to walk out of there with those World Tag Team titles. Fun tag team titles announced for Monday Night Raw. Very excited to see what the fate of both titles are as we are weeks away from WrestleMania. Usos and Vision, going to be a fun street fight. And then, of course, Irresistible Forces, the recent winners of the Women's Tag Team Championship, taking on Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, a tag team that we've kind of been waiting to enter the championship scene over there at WWE. So, yeah, other than that, other than Monday Night Raw on the watch list this week, we also have on Saturday NXT Stand and Deliver. This is the premium live event that NXT, until this year, has put on the Saturday morning before WrestleMania begins that same weekend there. And we see a shift here. We see NXT Stand and Deliver taking place on a quiet April weekend, a quiet early April weekend, weeks out from WrestleMania. And I got to say, I like this change. As fun as it is to put on NXT Stand and Deliver that Saturday morning, hours before the WrestleMania Night 1 takes place, I think NXT Stand and Deliver kind of having its own time to shine in what will be a busy April for wrestling is actually fantastic and kind of keeps the momentum going for the wrestling fan that watches all of it. You know, we'll have NXT Stand and Deliver, we'll have WrestleMania, we'll have AEW Dynasty. We will have a good time in April. That is for damn sure. Anywho, let's get into these two matches that are announced for NXT Stand and Deliver. I do want to shout out this week's episode of NXT because this week's episode of NXT on Tuesday will determine many more matches that will be added to the Stand and Deliver card that will take place this upcoming Saturday. But the two confirmed matches that we have so far at the time of this recording are Miles Bourne versus Johnny Gargano for the North American Championship. And then we have a fatal four-way match for the NXT Championship. Joe Hendry will be defending against All Ego Ethan Page, Ricky Saints, and Tony D'Angelo. So you can expect both of these matches to be fantastic. I'm fully ready for Johnny Gargano and Miles Bourne to kind of have a generational clash, if you will. Johnny Gargano representing my favorite era of NXT and your favorite era of NXT as well, right? And then Miles Bourne being the young guy, right? The young, new North American champion. This is going to be a fantastic clash. And then this fatal four-way match for the NXT Championship, probably going to be the main event, is going to be fun. I'm sure we are going to see a new champion. You know, I'd be surprised to see Joe Hendry retain. I'd be happy to see Joe Hendry retain. Let me make that clear. But I think they've been building up Tony D'Angelo for this spot, and what better way to usher in a new era of NXT by having Tony D'Angelo finally win the NXT Championship. I'm excited for it. I'm sure you're excited for it. I think All Ego Ethan Page or Ricky Saints also winning this belt makes perfect sense. Any person can win the fatal four-way match, and the fatal four-way match will be a success, and it'll make us excited for the future of NXT. But I do think if I had to pick one, obviously it's going to be Tony D'Angelo, and that's who I'm pulling for. That's who I'm pulling for, okay? If not a Tony D'Angelo win, then a Joe Hendry retain. I've had fun with Joe Hendry. I'm sure he'll have a bright future on the main roster sooner rather than later if he loses his belt here. If not, then I'm glad I get to see him continue his NXT championship reign because I've actually been having a lot of fun with it, more fun than I've had with the NXT title in a long time as a fan, to be honest with you, which is crazy because it's not like he's defending the title every week or anything. It's just a really feel-good, full circle moment in wrestling in my mind, Joe Hendry holding the NXT title. And it makes these NXT championship matches, especially the one we're going to have on Saturday night, a lot of fun. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for NXT Stand and Deliver. And I don't do a good enough job of giving NXT their flowers on this show. And for the NXT superstars and the NXT fan base that feels underrepresented if they're listening to this podcast, I apologize for that because NXT has been great. NXT has been consistent and solid at moments where WWE's main roster or AEW feel very, turbulent or mid, right? NXT just continues to do their thing, continues to have a fantastic women's mid-card division, continues to showcase women's wrestling at a very high level, continues to slowly, methodically and amazingly build stars in a way that benefits the main roster and in a way that inadvertently creates a new culture, something different that is fun. And it really does make you appreciate watching pro wrestling, right? When you are able to see a show like NXT, ideas being thrown at the wall and ran with. People over time, over long periods of time, honing in on their craft, getting better and better in the ring, getting better and better on the mic, getting better and better with presentations. Like, it really is a different way of enjoying pro wrestling compared to the main roster of WWE and, of course, AEW or New Japan or CMLL, right? It's NXT is very, you are lucky that you get to see the workshop, right? Whereas every other promotion is like, this is what we do and this is our best foot, or this is leading to our best foot. Anywho, hopefully that's something for giving NXT their flowers there. All right. Let's get into the top 20 champions of wrestling list here. Just a reminder, these are 20 champions in the world of wrestling that I have ranked from 20 to 1. I also give a long list of honorable mentions before that. Yes, there is a lot of room for subjectivity on this list, but I do try to be fair, and it's not all subjective. There is actually a science and more like a swivel to how I use data to put this list together. It is 100% based on work rate. It's based on what? It's based on work rate. It's based on, is this champion showing up to work? Is this champion lacing the boots and defending the title consistently? That is what this list is meant to be. The top 20 champions of wrestling based on work rate. Who is the best right now and who is maximizing their situation, right? This is really meant to champion the champions that make it mean something to be a champion. That's quite wordy and silly. Anywho, let's get into the honorable mentions before we start with the 20 champions of wrestling, the top 20 champions of wrestling. On this honorable mentions list, kicking it off here is the Elegance brand, the Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. And then we have the Vanity Project, the NXT Tag Team Champions, Elio LaFleur, the Speed Champion of WWE, having matches over there on Tuesday nights on NXT. And then we get over to New Japan. We have on this honorable mentions list the Never Openweight 6-man Tag Team Champions, Bishamon and Oleg Boltin. And then we have the Ring of Honor Women's Pure Champion, Deonna Purrazzo, the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, Unbound Company, the AEW International Champion, Kazuchika Okada, the AAA World Tag Team Champions, Pagano and Psycho Clown, the TNA International Champion, Trey Miguel, the TNA World Champion, Mike Santana, the Women's Intercontinental Champion, AJ Lee, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, Lee Moriarty, the CMLL Historic Welterweight Champion, if I'm not mistaken, Mystico. He's had a great, fantastic run with that title. I'm sorry, it's not welterweight. It's actually the CMLL World Light Heavyweight Championship, right there. That Bandito has, or Mystico has, if I'm not mistaken. Bandito is the Ring of Honor World Champion, also enters this honorable mentions list. Jade Cargill is the Women's WWE Champion. She makes the list. Leon Slater, the X Division Champion of TNA, is also on this list. And then Laney Luck, the WWE ID Women's Champion, rounds out our honorable mentions list. Shout out to all these people that did not crack the top 20. They absolutely deserve a shout out, and they have been fantastic champions in wrestling. Okay, let's get into it then. Number 20, we have the TBS champion Willow Nightingale. Number 19, we have the Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena, who's been kicking ass for years with that belt. Number 18, we have the AEW World Tag Team Champions FTR, who are the center point of what is an amazing AEW tag team division right now. We have at number 17, the Women's World Champion of WWE, Stephanie Vaquer, who will be defending the Women's World Championship at WrestleMania against Liv Morgan. Very excited for that match. Number 16, we have Kyle Fletcher, the TNT Champion. Number 15, we have the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Champion Konosuke Takeshita. Number 14, we have the AEW Women's World Champion Tekla. Number 13, we have the Intercontinental Champion of WWE, Penta. And number 12, we have the North American Championship of NXT, Miles Bourne. And number 11, we have the NXT Champion himself, Joe Hendry. All right, here we go with the top 10. At number 10 in the top 20 champions of wrestling, we have the Ring of Honor Women's World Television Champion Red Velvet, who's been fantastic over there on Ring of Honor programming. And then on number 9, we have the AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions, Divine Dominion, Lana Cross and Megan Bayne, who are young women's wrestlers who are looking to make a name for themselves on AEW and have the opportunity to do so, and have been doing a good job so far in their early run with the AEW Women's World Tag Team Champions. Just above them at number 8 is the Women's Tag Team Champions of WWE, Nia Jackson, Lash Legend, the Irresistible Forces. They've been doing a great job. I think they're really trying to have Nia Jax show Lash Legend everything she's learned in the past decade and year or so that Nia Jax has been in wrestling. Okay, and then at number 7, we have the NXT Women's Champion, JC Jane, somebody that has been using the NXT Women's Championship to grow and get reps and has been getting better and better. Number 6, we have the Women's North American Champion of NXT. Number 6, we have the Knockouts World Champion. Please excuse me. Ariana Grace is the Knockouts World Champion of TNA. And she's at the number 6 spot here on the top 20 champions of wrestling. We will get to Tatum Paxley in just a quick moment. Number 5, we have Jet Speed and Mystico. The AEW World Trios champions find themselves in the top 5 champions of the world with a feel-good moment and a quick turnaround in terms of title defense. They are early in their reign as the AEW World Trios champions, but they are going to do a fantastic job blessing every Dynamite, Collision, or pay-per-view card that they will defend those belts on. Hell, they might even take the belts over to CMLL, and that'll be fun. Number 4 in the top 20 champions of wrestling goes to the Women's North American Champion of NXT, Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley is somebody that has been getting reps in NXT for years at this point, has been fantastic, and we're really seeing years of work pay off as she has an amazing Women's North American Championship reign. She's been doing great with it. Now we get to the podium here, top 3 champions of wrestling. We start with number 3, Jon Moxley, the Continental Champion of AEW. Jon Moxley shows us with this current title reign that you don't have to do too much. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You win the belt, you have good matches, you defend the belt on TV, you defend the belt on pay-per-views, and you keep taking it one step at a time. That's what really gets Jon Moxley separated from the crowd, is the fact that he knows what he has to do to make his current run as Continental Champion mean something, and he is simply going out there and doing it. Are there complications? Yes. He seems to be turning face and turning heel at the same time. He seems to be both face and heel at the same time, is all I'm trying to say. A guy like Jon Moxley can balance that. Like, yes, it's one of those things that's weird because his faction on AEW, the Death Riders, does still seem to be very heel. But Jon Moxley, when he won the Continental Championship, seemed to cut a promo that was very babyface-esque, right? Very much seems like a babyface right now. But, only a guy like Jon Moxley can make that work. Only a guy like Jon Moxley can make that work. I think his Continental Championship reign so far in 2026 deserves heavy recognition. So here he is at number 3. Number 2, we have the World Heavyweight Champion, CM Punk, defending the belt against Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania. CM Punk, as I said in the last episode, and as I've probably said a couple different times at this point, has earned my respect over the years. Okay, I was not happy with the way he left AEW, and I did not have much respect for him after that. But he has put the work in over the past couple of years, and he has earned it. All right, not like a guy like CM Punk cares what I think about him anyways, but I'll go on to say it anyways, man. This guy has earned my respect. This guy's went back to WWE and made it work. You know, fans were going to be over with him and root for his success anyways. But it's a huge positive nod to CM Punk as a performer, as a WWE superstar, and WWE creative. They have consistently kept CM Punk as a marginal growth in every program, match, and storyline that he's been a part of since his return to WWE. And at number 1 in the top 20 champions of wrestling, first place on the podium here is the AEW World Champion MJF, who has learned a lot since he last held that title. And he is absolutely putting it to good use, making a complete superstar out of himself, carrying the momentum that Hangman has created for the AEW World Championship perfectly. And I'm sure there are an abundance of huge matches for MJF to have and close out AEW pay-per-views with in 2026 that will add to what he has already done in 2026. Impressively, being the Texas Death Match that closed out AEW Revolution just weeks ago, putting the AEW World title on the line against former champion Hangman Adam Page, defeating Hangman Adam Page in a Texas Death Match, taking an era that's been all Hangman for the past year and some change and making it the era of MJF. He is the number 1 champion in the world of wrestling right now. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. This has been the Wrestling is Bullshit podcast. We'll talk soon. Enjoy wrestling. Screw tribalism. Be good. Be happy. Peace out. Good to talk to you.